Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to lesson 5. We're going to cover pronouns. So things like he, she, him, them, and so on. So in lesson 3, we started looking at pronouns, specifically pronouns in the marfu' case. So this is when the pronoun is a subject, and we said that when a pronoun is a subject, it takes the form of an independent word. So let's say I want to say he, that's huwa. So huwa muslimun, he is a Muslim. They is hum, so they are Muslims, hum muslimuna. She is hiya muslimatun, hunna muslimatun, they are female Muslims, and so on and so on. And so you should practice this table, make sure that you can understand, that you know how to use each of these different pronouns, and the best way to do that is to use it to make short sentences, like he is a Muslim, you are a Muslim, I am a Muslim, and so on. So in this lesson, we're going to go beyond marfu' and we're going to look at pronouns in the mansub and the majroor case. So what we said before, and this is just a review of that, is that when a pronoun is marfu', it's by itself, it's a separate word. But if it's in the mansub or majroor case, it's actually a suffix that's added to the end of the word. So let's take a look at some examples to make that clear. So let's say I'm looking at he, so we already said huwa muslimun, is he is a Muslim. If I'm in the mansub case, an example of that in English would be mention him. So for example, mention him in the talk. So the Arabic word for mention is udhkur. If I want to say mention him, I add the suffix hu. Udhkurhu. Udhkurhu. Okay, so you'll notice that the suffix corresponding to huwa is hu. What about majroor case? So majroor is if it's following a preposition or if it possesses a noun. So let's take a look at the possession case. If I want to say his book, I say kitabuhu. Kitabuhu. So kitab is book, kitabuhu is his book. So you'll notice that it's actually the same suffix in both the majroor case and the mansub case, which is very nice because that makes it, now we don't have to memorize two tables, we just have to memorize one table of suffixes for the pronouns. So let's take a look at this table. So we already said that the suffix corresponding to huwa is hu or he. Okay, so we said hu. It turns out sometimes it can be he, depending on if the vowel right before the suffix is a kasra, in which case it becomes he, but if it's anything else, it becomes hu. So I'll just give a quick example of that. So kitabuhu, his book. But if I want to say fihi, in him, then I say he instead of hu, just because it sounds smoother to say fihi. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the plural case. What if I want to say their book? Then I say kitabuhum. Kitabuhum. Her book, kitabuha. The book belonging to those women, kitabuhunna. Your book, kitabuka. The book belonging to all of you, kitabukum. The book belonging to you, if I'm speaking to a woman, kitabuki. Kitabukunna is the book belonging to you, all women. And if I'm speaking about myself, my book, I say kitabi. Now, in this case, it turns out that for the first person singular pronoun, in other words, if I'm trying to say my or me, it turns out that there is actually two different suffixes here. It's either e or ni. Usually, if it's in the majroor case, I say e, and if it's in the mansub case, I say ni. So if I'm trying to say mention me, I can say udhkurni. Udhkurni. But in the majroor case, I say e, so kitabi, my book. Our book, kitabuna. And all of these other suffixes, by the way, it's the same thing for mansub and majroor. So if I want to say mention us, I say udhkurna. Mention us in your dua, for example. Okay, so just like you memorized that previous table here, huwa, hum, hiya, hunna, and so on, you should go ahead and memorize this table as well. And again, the best way to do that is to apply that to a word, say his book, their book, her book, and so on. Okay, and you'll notice a couple of things that'll make this memorization easier. So for example, hum and hunna are both the independent word, and they're also the suffix. So that's convenient. And for the third person, you'll notice that all of them start with ha. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. The second person, they all start with ka. And in fact, if I go back to this table here, if I just take ant and replace ant with a kaf, I get the suffix. So anta becomes ka, antum becomes kum. Just replace those first three letters with ka. Anti becomes ki, antunna becomes kunna. And then you get the suffix table here. Okay. And so just go through this, practice it a few times. This should become second nature to you. If I'm saying my book, your book, my pen, your pen, or this appears everywhere in the Quran. So for example, in Surah Al-Kafirun, we see dinukum, your religion, when speaking to a group of men. So these suffixes appear all the time, and you should memorize them. Alright, let's take a look at a few examples. Rabbi, Rabb means Lord. So Rabbi means my Lord, because we're looking at this suffix here. My Lord. Ibadi, so ibad is the plural of abd, which means servants. So ibadi means my servants. Hayatun becomes hayati, my life. And you'll notice, by the way, that if a word ends with the ta marbuta, this ta here, when you add a suffix, any suffix, it changes to a ta, a regular ta. And so hayati has this regular ta here. And this is just a spelling, this is just a writing thing. Hayati means my life. Hayatun means life. Ni'mah, ni'matun means blessing or bounty. Ni'mati, my blessing. Ni'mati, my blessing. So we'll see a lot more examples, but right now what I want to focus on is some of the grammatical rules related to possessive suffixes. The first one that you should know is that a possessive suffix makes a noun definite. Okay, so let's take a look at this example here. So let's say you want to say, my righteous servant. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking in the Quran and he mentions, my righteous servant. My righteous servants. You'll notice that this is an adjective, as-salihun. So salih means righteous when speaking about a single person. Salihun is the plural. And you'll notice that it has to be a plural because ibadi is also a plural. We said ibad is the plural of abd. So servants, servants. It turns out that this is masculine, so this is also masculine. This is marfu', so this is marfu', as-salihun. But the important one that I want to highlight here is that this is definite. So this also has to be definite. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, ibadun by itself is indefinite. Servants in general, that I could be referring to any servants. But when I say ibadi, my servants, now I'm referring to a specific group of servants. Okay, and so therefore, when I'm using the adjective to describe it, it also has to be definite. That's why you see the al at the beginning of salihuna. Ibadi as-salihuna, my righteous servants. Okay, so to recap that, ibadi is definite, even though it doesn't start with al, it's definite just because it ends with a suffix, possessive suffix. And that makes it definite. And so therefore, when I'm using an adjective, I have to, of course, use the definite adjective. What happens if I don't use the definite form of the adjective? What if I just say ibadi salihuna? Well, going all the way back to lesson 1, what we said was if you follow a definite word with an indefinite adjective, then it forms a complete sentence. Then you're saying, my servants are righteous. Ibadi salihuna. My servants are righteous. Okay, and this becomes the subject, and this becomes, if you remember, this is called the predicate in English. It's a noun that's describing, it's an adjective that's describing the subject of the sentence. So everything else still has to match. The gender, the case, the singular versus plural, that still has to match. But in this case, it's an indefinite word following a definite word. So one question that you might be wondering is, how do I have a definite predicate? So in the previous sentence, I said, my servants are righteous. What if I wanted to say something like, God is the most forgiving? So in this case, God would be Allah, but I can't follow God with an indefinite adjective. The most forgiving, that could be tawabun, for example. But tawabun by itself, that would not be the most forgiving. That would not be definite. Okay, so how do I get how do I get this is and a definite predicate? Well, now we can answer that question. It turns out that you do that by adding a pronoun of separation. And so let's take a look at an example. So what you do here is you say al-kafiruna humul zalimun. Okay, so this is a very common structure that appears in the Quran. So let's break it down. So what I have here is al-kafirun, that's the subject. You'll notice that it's definite. Al-kafiruna, the unbelievers. And it's plural, and it's marfu', and it's masculine. And so therefore the predicate is going to be all of those things. Okay? But I didn't say, so you'll notice that it's zalimun, so it's also plural, it's also marfu', it's also masculine, and so on. However, I didn't say al-kafiruna zalimuna. The unbelievers are wrongdoers. This is saying the unbelievers are the wrongdoers. They are the wrongdoers. And so in order for me to say this, in order for me to have a definite, predicate, a predicate starting with al, I have to put a pronoun in the middle. Okay? So, and the pronoun that you use the marfu' form of the pronoun, the independent word. And this is known as the pronoun of separation. And it's almost like, if I was to translate this linguistically, word for word, I would get it as al-kafiruna, the unbelievers, they are the wrongdoers. Okay? That if I'm translating this word for word, literally. The unbelievers, they are the wrongdoers. But the way to understand this is how you say in Arabic, the unbelievers are the wrongdoers. Okay, this is how you make that predicate, the wrongdoers, definite. Alright, let's take a look at another example. Allahu huwa tawwab. Allah, God, He is the forgiving, or in this case, the relenting. Okay, that's the literal translation. God, He is the relenting. But this is simply how in Arabic you say God is the relenting. God is the forgiving, the tawwab. Okay? The al predicate is preceded by this pronoun. Again, in marfu'a case, and you have this pronoun of separation that separates the subject from the predicate. So whenever you have a definite predicate, you should use this construction, and you'll see this a lot in the Quran. All right, so let me give you an example that combines a lot of different things that we've covered so far in this lesson. عذابي هو العذاب الأليم. What does this mean? Let me give you a few vocabulary words. عذاب is punishment. Alim is painful. عذابي هو العذاب الأليم. Okay? So عذابي is my punishment, is the painful punishment. Okay? My punishment is the painful punishment. And because this predicate is definite, I need a pronoun of separation. عذابي هو العذاب الأليم. My punishment is the painful punishment, or my punishment is the painful one. You could translate that. Okay? So one thing I want to mention in this example here is you'll notice we used huwa, which means he. And we use that when we're describing adhab, and that's because adhab is a masculine word. So huwa doesn't just mean he, it means it as well if the it is a masculine word. Similarly, hiya is used for it if the word is if the word is a feminine word. The last thing that we'll cover in this lesson is the word li with pronouns. Okay, so if you take the word li and you attach a pronoun suffix, that means that pronoun has, or it can mean for that pronoun. And I'm just covering this separately because li is just such a common word in the Quran, and sometimes the usage can be a little bit different. So let's just cover these examples here. So we see here li amali, li amali. So the word amal means work. Amali is my work. Li is for me. For me. Okay? So my work is for me, or my work is to my credit, if we were to translate that more idiomatically. Li ayatun. Ayatun means a sign. Li is for me, or I have. So this means I have a sign. I have a sign. Okay? And this is also true for if you attach other pronoun suffixes. If I say lahu, it means for him. Laha, for her, and so on. Alright, let's do some exercises to wrap this up. So, عذابي شديد. عذابي شديد. Adab is punishment. Adabi, my punishment. Shadidun is severe. So my punishment is severe. And you'll notice that this is a indefinite predicate describing a definite noun. Adabi shadidun, my punishment is severe. Ibni min ahli, my son is from my people, it's from my family. Ibni min ahli, my son is from, min means from, ahli. So this word ahli is, ahl is family or people, ahli, my people. And normally if this suffix wasn't here, it would be ahlin, because it's following min, so it would take the majroor case. But because of the suffix is here, you can't really see the case on ahl anymore. You just say ahli, my people. Ibni min ahli. Bayni wa bayna ikhwati. Okay, so this is the word bayn. We covered that in the last lesson on prepositions. It means between. So between me and ikhwati, my brothers. So between me and literally this would mean between me and between my brothers. But in English we usually don't repeat the word between, so you can just say between me and my brothers. Ikhwati is ikhwatun is brothers. Ikhwati is my brothers. Allahu huwal huda. So this is an example of using the pronoun of separation. Allah, He is the guidance, or the source of guidance. Allah huwal huda. Okay, so because this is a definite predicate, I need to use huwa. Allah huwal haq. Allah, He is the truth, or the reality. Allah huwal haq. Allah huwa rabbi. This is a good example here, because here we again have the same phenomenon here, where we have the predicate here is a definite word. How do we know that this is definite? Why are we saying that this is definite? I don't see an al. This is definite because of the pronoun, because of the pronoun suffix. Remember, that makes something definite. So Allah, He is my Lord. Ana min al-muslimin. Ana min al-muslimin. I am from the Muslims. I am from the Muslims. Why is it muslimin instead of muslimun? Because this is in majroor case, because it follows a preposition min. Alright, ana min al-muslimin. I am from the Muslims. Alright, well, we'll end there. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. One favor I have to ask you is that if you found these lessons beneficial, take a moment and share this video with someone else who could benefit, maybe who's trying to learn Arabic, or might benefit from this video. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.